Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Danny Morley.
And welcome to part 2 of what it's like to be a student at Masters of Self University. Today, we are joined by Linda and Raphael. Give it up, everybody. Yes. I would love to start with Linda. Linda, I will never forget the first time that I had a consultation with you. And I remember you being a student enrollment meeting. And you were kind of in this place where you're like, listen, I resonate with your videos and I'm ready to go all in. So I'd love to start with, what kind of made you take the leap of faith and really start enrolling and start doing this work?
Hi, everybody. So this is actually really exciting. What made me start this work? So just a little bit about my history. I think Ellie knows a little bit more about me than Danny does, actually. So I think as a child, I always knew I had a gift, but that was kind of suppressed for me growing up as an adult. And I found Ellie as I found Ellie back in 2024. You were sent to me by a friend of mine. I had a spiritual awakening back in 2023, and I went through what we call the dark night of the soul, and I was completely lost. I lost my identity. I couldn't figure out who I was. Everything to me didn't seem, wasn't the way I was taught. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional.
That's okay. Let it flow.
Yeah. It's when I first tried to learn who I truly was, rather than who I was taught to be. And nothing really made sense. So I tried many different healing modalities, and I did Reiki and sound bath, and I did emotion code healing. I even worked with a coach right before having my first consultation with you, Ellie. I worked with a coach, which I think you remember. I was telling you about him, that unlocked prisons for me. And when I saw your page, when it was sent to me through a friend of mine who's on a similar journey that I am, I just felt, you just reminded me of me, oddly enough. I just resonated with so much, and your voice did it for me, and the way you spoke, and it was because you were so authentic. I was so tired of seeing people and coaches out there that kind of put on, I felt like, this facade on social media, and they seemed to be so happy all the time. And I had this thing where it's like, well, I want to get there, right? But is that really realistic? Is that, what life is really like very happy and joyful 24/7? Because if that's what it is, I want to be there. Like, who doesn't want to be there, right? But then when I saw you and you spoke so much and you were so open about your programs, and I was like, oh my God, I love this girl because she's just so honest. You know, she's a coach, but she's also showing people that she's human. And I think that's what I loved so much. And it just caught me. And I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be authentic. I want people to see that nothing is perfect. And we're not perfect. Even the coaches that are coaching are not perfect. And I just love that. And that's what drew me to MSU was you, essentially, in your authenticity. So that's how I got to MSU.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And Raphael, I know that, you had gone through one-on-one coaching with one of our coaches. And I remember asking you like, hey, are you going to enroll in school? And you're like, yeah, I don't know. And then I think a few days later you were in. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your experience and what kind of propelled you to start doing this work.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, that's actually through Gregoire that I've met some years ago already now, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago actually, through different modalities that he's offering. And prior to that, I had some realization about that I was suffering. I wasn't aware first, but after a few months of meditation, I realized that I was suffering from loneliness, and I decided that I needed to stop this and to end the cycle. And I reached out for help. So first, I went through therapy for a couple of years, and I met Gregoire through some sun baths he's doing and another program, and he introduced me to MSU, and that's how I got to take on the one-on-one coaching program, so the Power Within program, which was great. And once I've completed the program, I was on the Going Beyond program, so keep practicing finding my power. And that's about the moment you started launching the university. And yeah, I was hesitating because I was a bit stuck where I was, and I was almost giving up, to be honest. I was not necessarily giving up, but I was at the point I needed some time alone to integrate the whole program. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I think I should catch the train and, like sign up and do the course. So here I am.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So, I'd love for you guys to talk about, because Linda, you are a first-year student. You're about to go hit your third semester. Raphael, you're a second-year student. So, you guys are in different classes, but, all of it is intertwined with each other. But what's been a very big moment for you, especially Linda, because you've been on this path now for, I think, almost 6 months. What's been kind of a big moment for you that made you realize like, oh, I'm doing the real work. Like this is the realest thing here. And what was it like? What was the experience?
So for me, it was, well, first off, I went to therapy back in 2021, and therapy did its part for me. It kind of like hit a plateau at 3 years into therapy. It did hit a plateau for me, and I'm like, okay, well, I know what my issues are, right? How do I heal them? Okay, and I believe like everything is divinely guided, and I was meant to start therapy first. Because maybe if I started MSU, I don't know what would have happened.
Raphael, I'd love for you to share kind of what's been your biggest aha moment since you've been doing the work here at MSU.
Well, I think my biggest moment was to find my power within, like reconnecting actually to my power. And to my heart and the power of transmutation. This was pretty incredible feeling to feel inside of myself, and the shift that it produced, I was feeling calmer, and like I saw the progress and the improvement. And so this is one actually big haha, but it's more gradual. Like I haven't really seen, like a very massive haha, but it's like gradual.
Yeah.
And for me, what's the most impressive is the level of awareness that all this work brings to everything. So the awareness of myself, of others, and the level of gratitude, and mostly also compassion towards myself and others.
Yeah, and so let's stay there for a minute. Like the awareness, like where was your awareness before you started any of this?
Good question. So I think I started my journey like 3-4 years ago, and I was really mind driven. I'm still are, but I was really in my mind and in my thoughts a lot, and at some point it was draining, exhausting, lost in my thoughts and ruminating things, and I became I had to find a way to stop this. It was so exhausting, and I came across meditation through an app. So I was doing meditation for several months, like 10-15 minutes every day. And at first it started, I saw the progress, and I saw it was quieting the mind. And after, at some point, I was becoming aware of myself and of my thoughts. And I was able to observe the thoughts and not feeding into them so much anymore, and make a shift on the focus of my thoughts. So that was the first step to awareness. And after, with the therapy work, I started increasing my awareness also by pointing the issues and things that was in my blind spot, basically. And when I started the work at MSU, that was such another level. Like right from the get-go in the Power Within, you've got so much awareness brought to the surface, awareness about yourself, all the programs you're running, like it's like a day and night, like completely different. And I thought I improved a lot already, my level of awareness. I was blown away by that. And then I started enrolling with the quantum energetic courses, and now the energetic detachment, and it's like, it blows my mind even more. Like the level of awareness, it's incredible.
Yeah, the Mastering Energetics class is really taking me to a whole different level. Like the Power Within work, the work you do in your first year, I've been doing that for like it was like nearly 4 years now. But then this new level, it's like, holy shit, I'm seeing so much more in me, and it's allowing me to feel and like detect these subtle energies a lot more clearly. And it's just so powerful. I always talk about, when I'm explaining this work, especially the Power Within, step one is increase your level of self-awareness. Because if you don't realize what programs are running, right, then, how are you ever going to heal, elevate, transform in any kind of way? Like, you need to become aware. And then step two is, well, now I have this awareness. And Linda, I know you mentioned talk therapy. Like this, I was in talk therapy for a year, and like I would talk to my therapist on the phone, and we would just talk about the same stuff. I would be like, oh yeah, my mom left when I was a kid, and da 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 da. And it wasn't going anywhere. As you said, like it plateaus. It's like it hits a dead end. And that's because there's no actual connection to the heart. There's no actual transformation occurring in order to shift us into like something else. And that's where the true magic is, and the power is like when we can actually connect to our heart and actually begin to like this process of alchemy. And what's whoever wants to go, what's that been like to actually like shift out of the paradigm of mind therapy and actually start feeling shit? Linda's like, yeah, I felt some shit. Yeah, take it away, Linda.
Okay, so I guess Raphael's first awareness was completely different from mine, right? So mine was with my relationship, my last relationship, which was the most toxic relationship, which was when I first became aware of the choices I was making rather than being the victim of what was happening to me. And I said to myself, Linda, something's not okay because this has become a pattern, right? Everyone that you have dated has treated you the same way. You need help. And that's when I started therapy, right? Which I was very afraid of because the word psychotherapist, I was like, I'm not psycho. Like, I don't need that, you know? Um, but yeah, I noticed that with therapy, right? Although it was 3 years, I did a lot of projecting, even during therapy, right? Because they didn't teach you how to connect to your heart space. So the massive amount of awareness that I have now, I've never had that before. And I said this the other day, and it hit me so hard because I was like, oh my goodness, I know what it feels like to actually operate as an adult for the first time in my life rather than operating as a child. Because every time a trigger now comes up for me, rather than projecting on the person, right? I sit there and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm feeling the emotional programs of like anger. And where is this coming from? Right. And even if I don't have a second to sit with it then and there while it's happening, I'm not that advanced yet. I can alchemize in real time, depending on how deep the wound is, right? Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. Um, I sit with it and I alchemize whatever's coming up for me before I even have a conversation with the person. And then the best part of it is after I alchemize or after I'm even aware, I'm able to actually speak to the person about what came up for me and not in a place where I need them to fix what's coming up for me, like, or to change themselves. There's no neediness behind it. It's just more or less like, hey, this came up for me, just so you're aware, you are part of the trigger, has nothing to do with you, right? It's just really what's coming up for me. But I'm just expressing myself raw and letting you know that this is the work that I do and this is what's coming up, and now I have to work through this.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, this is, I mean, that was such a beautiful share because I'll never forget Rachel giving us a teaching when me and Danny were first students of like, nobody actually knows what true connection is because all we do is we connect from woundedness, right? And nobody knows how to take actual divine responsibility over themselves because all we know is how to project and blame everybody else, right? But how powerful it is when you go, oh, I'm triggered. Stuff just got activated. Let me take my time to go into what just got brought up in me. And then when you come to the person and you share what you just moved through, that's true connection, right? Because now I don't need anything from you because I took care of me. Like, I'm good. I saw it all. I did the work on me. And now let me share with, I mean, think about when we all start doing that, what that actually creates between people, right? And a lot of like the bullshit relationship advice out there is like communication is key. Communication is dick all shit if you're not actually taking responsibility over yourselves. Danny and I are two people that do the work. We happen to be in a relationship together. When he and I get triggered by each other, we go off, we come back, and then we share. And what we actually build is an actual relationship that's not rooted in, I need you to change, you need to change, or it's, hey, this just got all this stuff brought up. Let me tell you what I moved through and what I worked through. And what we actually create is bomb. And it's like, that's what relationship will look like in the new earth, because people are becoming the way of responsibility.
Yeah, and even if you don't share with, with the person what you're moving through, it's the fact that, like in your case, Linda, you're doing the real work. And what that does is it energetically shifts the way that you exchange with another person. So, to stay with like just Ellie and I for an example, right? If Ellie triggers me, and then I share with her why she triggered me from my trigger, and I'm just, as we're talking about, like projecting or blaming or sharing my unconscious programming and wounding, right? That's just going to create more friction. It's probably going to create conflict. It might lead to an argument, versus when I realize, oh, I'm triggered, I'm the one running the program. They could be running a program too. They might be. Most likely, someone it probably is, because we're nothing but our programs until we're not, till we actually heal. And most people are still so attached to their programs. And so when we do the work and we shift, that allows us to then exchange energy with people in a very, very, very different way. And I've had this experience a lot with people where I will get triggered, and an older version of me would hold on to this like grudge and then want to create this like story in my mind about how awful this person is, and and then it would create that reality. I would create that, and me and this coworker, for example, may have this, awful then rapport for the next couple of weeks while I don't work through what just came up, versus just own it and then actually knowing what to do, right? And that's what hopefully you both have learned in the first year. What you're moving through like right now, Linda, is like really being able to know, all right, I have been triggered and I've got this. Like, I know what to do with this shit. I can alchemize it. I can shift my energy, and then show up very differently in the world.
You know what I also realized is how people are more receptive when you're doing the work
Yeah.
and you're sharing what's happening and what was coming up for you, how receptive they are, and how that defense program doesn't really show up in them as much, like where they feel like they need to like attack, and it's not this back and forth. And also the way they look at me now, it's a completely different look. They look at me like, oh, this is, wow, she's being an adult. Like, that's what an adult looks like. So, and I realize, just by having these conversations with friends or family, and just by explaining to them all the things that I moved through, it shifts their perspective and the way they start to view things. And you can see the shift in them as well, because they're like, oh, they get a lot of aha moments with me. And they're like, oh, wow, this is so interesting. I never knew that. And so they start asking a lot of questions. And I'm like, yeah, MSU, like, this is what we do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ripple effect. When we show up and we mature and we become more of the light that we are, I mean, think about how that affects everybody else around us. I obviously have been on TikTok for my entire journey for years and years now, right? And I'll watch a video from 2 years ago that I posted. I'm like, oh my God, that is so cringy. Like, I was such an immature child. But it's such a beautiful measurement to see, even who you were 6 months ago, even who you were a year ago, right? That you can see yourself literally evolving and elevating when you're doing the real work, right? When I was in the spiritual matrix and I was doing all that other bullshit out there, I wasn't actually elevating. I was pretending like I was, I was wearing the mask of it. And it's like, energy never lies, because energy never dies, right? So unless you're actually transforming and learning how to transmute this stuff, you're going to be what you are. And that's what you're giving to everybody. But when you start doing the real work on yourself, the reason why people don't get defense, think about what the energies you're coming from now. Before it was this, let me battle you, and then the battle becomes the entanglement of the two of you. Now you come in, I've taken care of me, and so they're not going to get triggered in all of their stuff, because you're coming from a more elevated place. Like when you start really functioning like that, I mean, first of all, life gets easier because you're maturing. Now you're not a little child anymore that's projecting and blaming and needing. It's like, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, Linda, for you to take Mastering Energetics, the class that the three of us are in, because it takes that, in my opinion, to a whole nother level, just of like being able to really shift the way that you show up as an adult in the world. Like, it's a game changer. Like being able to be energetically detached from what another person or you are starting to run on such a deep level, of having that inner awareness of knowing, oh, this person is saying this thing to me, right? And I can completely detach from that, and in this moment shift, transform, and just show up in a completely different way. And this is how we create our realities, right? When we don't realize what programs are starting to be activated, we're then creating from those programs, right? And when we start to realize, oh, this is what I'm actually creating, like this shit right here, of course we're going to have toxic relationships, toxic partnerships. We're going to be attracted towards certain people that vibrate to allow those things to come up and out, because we're a vibrational match to those things. And so, as Ellie said, yeah, when you heal, you start elevating, things do become easier in that sense.
Raphael, I'd love to, hear, in what ways have you noticed, changes in your relationships with people, or your energy, or how you're showing up in the world?
Yeah, so I've noticed, like people going out of my life a little bit, not necessarily like losing them for good, but like taking some distance, and some new people coming in. So that's interesting to observe. And yeah, people reacting differently to how I behave. And yeah, exactly as Linda just mentioned, like people, I mean, connect with you in a different manner. So that's very nice to observe. Yeah.
Yeah, people will elevate in or out. If we elevate together, great. If not, they're just gonna go, and that's just what it is. And you learn to really become the way of surrender with it. At first, like in the beginning of my journey, I wanted to hang on to like every single person. You go through this phase where you want everyone to wake up. You want to change everybody. Like, look at the path that I'm on. This is it. And you realize and start to understand that in the way of honoring, you honor what everyone chooses. And the question is, why are you attached to this relationship or this friendship? Why are you hanging on? Why won't you let it be what it is? And the more you do that, I mean, the quote unquote easier it gets. And you just realize, like, oh, they were here for this season. I got to go. If they're going to stay, okay. If you're going to come, great. But it is what it is. And then in that, you start to invite, the people that are now vibrating at the frequency that you're at, the timeline that you're on, which is really exciting.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie. Like, this is a very lonely journey, right? Because at least for me, I start to like feel different from everyone else, right? And you're right. You want to take people with you, like I do, but not because, I think it's more or less like because I know what it's like on this side. And I'm like, only if you guys knew what it was like on this side. Like, I want you on this side of the team. Like, please come join me, And I guess it's because like the love that I have for, especially like my family, or my good friends that are very supportive. They might not align with me based on the choices that they make in their life, but they are very supportive, which is what I love, right? One thing I wanted to mention about MSU when I first signed up right? And it's funny because I was thinking about this and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go in and it's 3 months and I'm going to get my coaching certificate. And, because I know it all. Like, I know I've been doing the work. I'm telling you, I thought, and then when I heard it was like a year and then I needed another year for that, I was like, why? I know everything. And I think like even during classes, like, or one-on-ones, or I was like, I know this already. Like, I know this already. In my head, I was like, I know this already. I was clueless, right, to what I was going to actually be doing and what I was going to learn. I had no idea that I first needed to become these things before I was able to actually guide other people into becoming, right? Because I was in such a rush to get to this place. And I think my entire life, even as a child, like I said, like when I was I've always had this gift. And I've always wanted to help people, even as a kid. No one had, if they didn't have food, their lunch, I would give them mine. If they were crying, I wanted to console them. It was just me. It's always been in me. And even as an adult, I knew I wanted to help people, but I was so broken inside. Like I felt so broken that I didn't know how to help other people. And being where I am now in the what I call in the phase of becoming, right? Because I tell people all the time, I was like, I'm in the process of becoming. Now I truly understand why this course is so long. And I'm not in a rush to get to the ending. I'm enjoying the process. And a lot of the stuff that comes up for me, sometimes it can be one thing, but then sometimes I do get overwhelmed with like, oh, like I feel that, or I felt that, and I felt that. And I'm like, okay, Linda, take it down a notch, ground yourself. Let's work through one thing at a time and work through this. But yeah, I was completely clueless until I came here, and I'm just, this is different, completely different.
Yeah. When, a lot of people, they run programs of that. Like, I already know this. I think that I know anything. And the beautiful thing about this university is you think you know, and you actually don't know shit. And, me and Danny have been, students and coaches for almost 4 years now. We will never stop becoming. We will never stop learning. We will never stop growing. There is so much work that we're moving through constantly, and it will continue to be so, right? And the evolution of you will never stop as long as you keep doing the work on yourself and you keep elevating. I always say this, how high do you want to go? How far do you want to go? It is a constant, it is an everyday thing, constantly.
Yeah, and it's that part of us that says, oh, I know. It doesn't know. It doesn't know. And I think that's incredibly humble of you, Linda, for sharing that on the podcast. And it's beautiful that you've arrived at a place of recognizing that was a part of you that showed up, because that's beautiful, because it's only when, obviously, that's the way of humility. So it's, I think, the 15th, so a very high way of oneness, is learning that, oh, when actually I arrive at a place of realizing I don't know, am I humble enough to actually start to learn? And it's in that humility of realizing, oh, I don't know fucking anything, that's when we can actually receive what it is that these teachings actually are. Because it's at that point we get off and I've been on this horse, don't worry, that superior high horse. Once you get off that high horse and you bring yourself back down to the ground, that's when we're able to actually start to learn. We get out of the mind, and we're able to start to integrate and understand this work from an inner energetic perspective. And why it's so hard to really explain almost and understand what this work is without doing it is because it doesn't come from the mind, right? It's not anything that you can just hear a video on and know what it is. It's like, my easiest way, my analogy that I would give is like, if you've never ever swam in water, and obviously you've had contact with water at some point in your life because you drink it, right? We need it. And then all of a sudden you're writing a book on how to swim. It's like, bro, you've never even been in the ocean. You've never been in a pool. How are you going to talk? Oh, I know. Fucking read 20 books on how to swim. No, you fucking don't. I'll take the Olympic swimmer over there, or the Hawaiian guy that can swim between islands, and I'm pretty sure they'll teach me how to swim a lot better, right? And it's the same thing with this work and spirituality. There's so many parts of our ego that like to jump in and pretend like we know, and what it does is it causes us to not see. We put blinders on, and then we don't receive really what it is that that we need to get to the next level. The fact that you've arrived at that awareness, Linda, shows that you have. So beautiful job. Because to be able to come on a podcast like this and you know, own that is just badass. That's, you know, that's what this work is all about.
Yeah. And every time you start getting comfortable at a level, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, you'll get knocked on your ass. The way of humility will come, and then you're back to zero. And now it's time for the next elevation. You will never stay where you are. And if your ego chooses to stay there, you'll just be trapped at a very low grade for a very long time. But the way of humility has come so many times to kick me beautifully and go, all right, back down. Let's go. It's time to grow even more. So this journey there are no words. Like Danny said, you cannot describe this to anybody. That's why everything we teach, you have to experience it. It's experiential. This is not knowledge at all. At all. Yeah.
Raphael, you got to grab the mic, because once I get comfortable, I don't shut up.
Pass him the ball. We'll pass him the ball after this one. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You're good, Linda. No worries. Yeah. No, for me, the journey is very interesting, and I love watching my progress, you know. And this work brought me a lot of patience. Like, for instance, you know, when I'm on the road, before I used to be like really, you know, rushing, like going to work or everything. And now everything seems so, you know, simple, easier. And yeah, the level of patience, it brought compassion for myself, for others. It's incredible. And also the other day, I mean, some times ago already at work, some of my colleagues exposed me on some stuff I wasn't aware, like my blind spot. I was completely shocked, you know, with this, what they were accusing me about. And I was like, okay, before I may have reacted, you know, like protecting myself or do whatever. And I was able to be in presence and just receive what they had to tell me and not react. And then I was able to process it and, you know, come back to them with a clear answer and like explanation, apologize, and everything that was needed. But it was, yeah, no, very relieving, you know, like a very nice feeling.
While you've got the mic, Raphael, I'd love to ask you, because so far this year as a second year student, we've taken quantum energetics in the first semester, and we've already mentioned this semester in right now, we're taking mastering energetic detachment. And this mastering energetic detachment class, I've been saying, it's been taking me to a whole new level. But the quantum jumping, it was so cool. It was so magical, but I found it very hard. It was very challenging for me, and it brought up a lot of my stuff. And next year, I'm probably going to retake the class because I just know there's so much more that I'm going to get from that as I keep growing. I just love for you, because you've been in that class, just to give us your experience of what it was like. And I think that was your first class actually being taught and guided in a live class by Rachel. So I'd just love to hear just from your experience what it was like for you.
Yeah, that was very interesting because I wasn't expecting this at all. You know, like I was like quantum energetics, mastering quantum energetics. First, I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. Like, what the hell is this? But yeah, after the few first classes, I was so excited and passionate about this work, and that was very very nice. Like I really enjoyed being taught by Rachel directly. For sure, it was the first time, and she's funny. She's a great teacher, and I really enjoyed those classes. And for me, I find it slightly easier than the power within. To be fair, like I was able to move through the exercises. But I'm yet to master the finding my power and the alchemy. This is a process I'm still working on a lot.
Yep, you maybe working on it for a little bit, because it does. I'm certainly not mastered in it either. It takes time to really become a true master in that. So beautiful. And Linda, I'd love for you to share. You did the power within, and you did some work with Ellie. And then all of a sudden, this semester, you're in a class with the whole community being taught by Rachel. What was it like then going into a class after doing the power within and, doing the shadow work, to then being guided by this being?
Okay. So first I'd like to say, right, and I've had one-on-one with Rachel, by the way. I have had the experience, the beautiful experience, because I've been listening to the podcast and I'm like, I want to know what it's like to work with Rachel one-on-one. I'm ready to do this. Okay. But before I go there, when I first saw Rachel, and she knows this because I told her, when I first saw Rachel, I'm not going to lie, when I heard her, she triggered the life out of me. And I was like, ew, she's so mean. Like, because I had this perception, right? I had this perception in my mind, like in my head, that like spiritual people or people that practice or that are healing are like zen and calm and like, very like quiet and loving. So she did, until we started taking the classes and then eventually doing the work with Ellie one-on-one, which has helped me tremendously. I realized she doesn't bother. Like, I love her. I genuinely love her. I laugh in the class when she says the things she says. But the one-on-one experiences that I've had with her, and I was actually talking to my cousins about this yesterday, I have never in my entire life experienced such a powerful being ever. The shit that we move through together, I was shocked. I was like, I have this thing with my shoulder. This is where I feel my pain. It's where they like chaos, like of the masculine side, because I have a lot of father wounds. And she can just detect that. And as we're doing this session, right, and she's like activating the ways of like harmlessness and gentleness and compassion, all this stuff, and we're moving through it, I can feel the energy moving from my shoulder into my jaw to the point where my jaw was locked. She was asking me questions. I'm like, She's like, it's in your jaw. I'm like, yeah.
You're like, yeah, I can't speak. Yeah.
Yes. I have never experienced that with anyone. Any of the coaches I've ever worked with, like even in the past, I was astonished like by it. It was amazing. I love her to death so much. I can't even express how much.
It's so funny how much we judge, a being like that when we run programs of, separation, right? We have all our different programs, and then we hear somebody speaking powerfully and truthfully, and we go, oh my God, they could never be enlightened. They could never be spiritual. They're so judgmental. They're so mean. I remember hearing the first time I heard a quote like that from her, she said, weak people don't heal, warriors do. And I remember it like shook me to my core, because there was a part of me that felt very weak, but I was like, wow, weak people don't heal. Like, don't be weak, be a warrior, like go into the weakness. Why do you feel that way? But it's so easy when we're so unconscious to just, back to blame and projection, just to blame and project. It's funny how as you evolve more, I remember like listening to podcasts of Rachel, and sometimes I'd have to pause them because I would get so freaking triggered. I'd be like, that's too much Rachel right now, I've got to pause it. This few years ago, I'd have to work through my shit. And now I can't tell you the last time I've been triggered listening to a podcast by her. She does not trigger me. Raphael?
Yeah, that was me too. Yeah. First it was, because I'm a huge fan of the podcast and I'm listening a lot to them. And yeah, it was interesting, like very sometimes challenging to listen to Rachel. And even some episode I could not finish, I had to pause, to stop and like, okay, never mind. I'll listen to Danny and Ellie, that's gonna be okay. and yeah, for sure. But over the course of the different episode, I started learning a little more, increasing my awareness. And yeah, when I came to the class, the first time, I was already prepared, and I moved on from that phase, because now I understand what she's saying, what she's teaching, and how she's doing it, and this is beautiful. And that's the way she speaks, and she is just to awaken people, to shock them, and to like wake up, So yeah.
She's, I mean, I could talk about this for days on days on days, but we don't know what power actually looks like, because all we know is powerlessness, right? And we've been so brainwashed with all the spiritual matrix shit of like, they got to be zen and quiet, and especially a woman could be so loving and all stuff. It's like, that's not divinity. Divinity is what Rachel is, which is fucking powerful, and she is here to shatter every single program that we run that thinks that it should be this way. It's like, no, it fucking isn't at all. And when you start to actually heal yourself, you will hear her, you will understand her, and you will receive her in a way where all you feel is divinity. When you are so riddled in program and wounding and brainwashing, you will hear and you will filter her through your shit. The more you unblock that, you actually feel what she is and where she's coming from. And it is fucking unconditional love. It is power. She is here to awaken humanity, unshackle us from like, do you understand? I could like, you feel my passion right now, because it pisses me off so much when people project so much shit onto her when she's actually here to give us the keys to our liberation. We just have to fucking open it and do the work. And in doing the work, we get to see her and what she is. And what she is teaching us is, follow me. I am the way. I am the way back home to your divinity and your power and the ways, and becoming a being of oneness. And all I can is the way of honoring and prostrate in front of a being like that, because she is here to teach us to become what she has become, and more, and keep, like, it's crazy, and it's so fucking beautiful, and it's so rad, and I'm constantly in awe that I'm on this path, and I'm always like high-fiving my soul, because this is it. And how far do you want to go?
Yeah, it's that age-old saying, right? As within, so without, right? And just so we can break that down. And what does that actually mean, right? When you can see the divinity in your own self, you can see the divinity in another, right? And how much divinity is there, you can see that, you can feel it when you start to connect to your own self. Well, what creates the disconnection from your own self? Your programs and your wounds. So the natural progression of this work is you start doing the work on yourself and healing the wounds. And the more divinity you see in yourself, the more you're going to be able to see it out in the world. And the more shame and hatred and blame that we have within ourselves that we're not ready to look at, guess what? We're going to see that. We're going to see that out in the world as well. And if we haven't healed, we then are going to misinterpret somebody in their power. And because we feel so powerless, in their presence, that opens the door for our programs to project. And the question is there, are you ready to do the work and see that projection? And obviously, the fact that, we're on this call and, you move through these experiences of listening to her and feeling the triggers. And then now you're like, oh my God, I love her. It's like, look at that is just a sign at how much you have grown, because you can see the divinity in your own self. You can see it in others. So it's an incredible testament.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
yeah, what I love is watching her role modeling, setting boundaries. You know, when sometimes in class, like she just does this, like she express a boundary like no one no one does. It's just amazing.
As somebody who did not have boundaries growing up, no one's setting them for me, role modeling. I'm 100% with you. I'm like, oh wow, that's what it means, and I'm learning. Aren't I, Elle? I'm learning.
Yeah. I'd love to know from Linda, and both Linda and Raphael, there's going to be people listening to this podcast, right? And they're going to be hearing what you guys are speaking about, and they're on the fence, right? They're like, oh, I'm not sure, do I want to enroll? Do I want to do this? What would you say to somebody that's on the fence of enrolling as a student here at MSU?
First and foremost, I know what it was like for me when my intuition kicked in. It just felt very natural, kind of like this excitement. Don't get me wrong, my ego did kick in a little bit later on. It's like, am I doing this? No, but I decided to stick with that initial excitement of what I felt from the very beginning. And if you're feeling that, I highly recommend to follow that. Okay. And what I also want to say is operating as an adult is so liberating. I don't even know how to explain how this feels. It's just it's so peaceful. Even when you're recognizing your wounds, and as hard as it is to process, but to operate from a form of adult, like as an adult rather than a child, is liberating. And if you're ready to operate as an adult, MSU is where it is. We'll learn that all here.
Well said. Yeah, I think I would say whoever's on the fence, jump over the fence and come over. Really, this work is so transformative, and it helped me progress a lot in life, and I could not recommend it enough to anyone. So,
Well, thank you so much for you two for bringing yourselves, bringing your soul, bringing your experiences and your wisdom, and just being vulnerable and having a real conversation with us today. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, beautiful, guys. And I'm sure you guys will be here for the long run, just like me and Danny. Because goddamn, every semester that passes, I'm like, let's learn. Me and Linda were talking. We're like, yo, I just want to learn constantly. I was so excited to learn. It's so exciting. The path of evolution ain't no joke, but it is also the most magical and the most powerful and most beautiful. So thank you guys for doing the work and showing up. For those of you at home who are listening, who are like, all right, I'm ready. Great. Because our fall semester starts August 26th. All right. And if you want to learn more, you can sign up for a free student enrollment meeting at mastersofselfuniversity.com. And hopefully we'll see you there, and we'll see you in class. Till next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.